Hey guys, it's Core Ross and Rainbow Six News. Today we're talking about the demise of Rainbow Six Extraction, but the main story I'll be going over today is one you might not have heard, and that is how a community dedicated to this game was duped into believing an array of fake leaks that said there was going to be a huge content drop for year 2 of Rainbow Six Extraction, even though Ubisoft had put out a roadmap showing that year 2 was simply reused content, and actually behind the scenes development had entirely stopped. So let's begin with addressing my viewers who are probably watching this video right now, because a lot of people do not like Extraction, or maybe never even played it as well. And you would be very surprised to hear that there is actually a very dedicated fan base for Rainbow Six Extraction out there. And I'm certainly one of them. I played Rainbow Six Extraction every week for its first year. And as such, I kept up with the Rainbow Six Extraction community, and I watched in horror as they started to fall for what looked to be very false leaks in December. Now, the thing is, these leaks look to be pretty good, and maybe they could have even been like really early concept or stuff like that. And the leaker was also thrown in some like audio files and things like that, so there was a good chunk of content, but none of it quite looked entirely real and could have easily all been falsified. And at the time I was thinking, oh, maybe I should make a video debunking this, because on the Core Ross channel for Rainbow Six Siege, I used to debunk false leaks. I would go and look up the assets that were being used and figure out that this stuff was all fake, and there was a few of them over the years. But then Ubisoft launched the next roadmap for Rainbow Six Extraction, and it showed all reused content. They also called it the yearly roadmap, as if it wasn't just for the next year, but for every year that the game servers would be up, meaning that it was all done and dusted. But incredibly, the community turned around and said, oh, that's not really the roadmap. And that was quite shocking to see people say, oh yeah, that's them just doing something else. That's, don't worry about that. There's going to be a whole bunch of content. So I naively thought, I don't need to make a video then, because, the official roadmap's out there. Eventually everyone's going to figure out that's what's actually going on. But yeah, it didn't go down that way. So we're going to look at these fake leaks, because I think it's important to always, especially in these current times where you get a lot of accurate leaks, that you always take your salt with leaks, because even the best leakers are not 100% correct, and a lot of people set their expectations and hopes, and sometimes they even, I've literally seen people read a leak and then go to someone else and say this is what is officially coming in the future, even though it was a leak that they read and it actually isn't coming in the game, whether that be a Siege, Extraction, or whatever game you're talking about. So in December, there was a whole bunch of posts on the Rainbow Six Extraction Reddit. This was one of the more expansive ones, where it showed off a whole kind of transformation of the game with new weapons, new locations, a whole bunch of different stuff. And if you do go in and actually read the text, it reads as being very fake. It doesn't read as anything Ubisoft would be writing or developing, and a lot of it just seems like someone threw it together. Also, the style used is actually from Rainbow Six Quarantine. So that, of course, is the original name for the game, which is like, what, half a decade or more old now? So the style is just way off for something that would probably be done internally. I'm not saying it couldn't be something internally, but most likely this is a fake that someone photoshopped together. But there was stuff that was more obvious Photoshop. So for instance, there's this main menu showing a whole new map location, and this just looks like someone squashed the other ones together and then added a new one, and it definitely kind of vibes as being completely photoshopped. And certainly when I seen this, as someone who used to be a graphic designer for a decade and used Photoshop, this just kind of called out to me as being probably very fake. And that meant that everything else this guy was posting, because it was just the one leaker posting the fake stuff, meant when I seen this, I thought, that means the rest of it's probably fake as well. However, about the same time, some real leaks were coming out, and these, I believe, are real. So there's this bundle for Jackal. Now, Jackal is not in Rainbow Six Extraction, but we think that he probably was in development when development was shut down. And a lot of the stuff like cosmetics, of course, get done ahead of time. So I think this most likely is legit and was going to be a bundle for Jackal, and he would have been added into year 2 if it ever had actually happened. And another thing that makes this more believable is we also have a PNG version with a transparent background, and leakers don't usually go to that extent. So I think this was official artwork that would have ended up in-game. Now let's move on to the fake year 2 roadmap, which looks like this. And this is a very good fake. If we go back to that original leak I was showing you, and then over to the new year 2 roadmap, that's an impressive improvement in quality and it looks kinda legitimate. However, it's definitely not a real roadmap. First of all, the big red flag is seasons. That's very much from Rainbow Six Siege, and Extraction actually specifically stayed away from calling their new content seasons. In talking about Siege, the rest of the roadmap is very much inspired by Rainbow Six Siege's roadmaps, and that is again not how Extraction goes. Not to mention, the style is completely wrong. If we actually go and switch over now to the real Year 2 roadmap, which looks like this is gorgeous, lots of colors used, and whoever the graphic designer was that made this did an amazing job with what they were asked to create, because obviously there's not much content in it, but they put together something absolutely beautiful. And it makes the fake look much more amateurish. And this now takes us into the sad part where a community was convinced by the fake leaks and ignored the official roadmap. So on the subreddit, we had people saying, more clarification, the article is about event reruns, not that there won't be new ones. With a follow-up saying, exactly, people are panicking for nothing, even if the events are reruns, it's probably only to save on dev time on actual content, which of course never showed up. And the other one said, with quoting people panic for nothing, said, this is the internet, we don't do calm and rational here. Then another user posted and said, this is the dev's fault for not clarifying that better, even though this clearly does say that it is the yearly roadmap. It's not saying it's a partial roadmap or something, it is very clear on what it is. Not to mention the developers have no control over marketing for the game. And at this point, behind the scenes, the developers are gone. They've already been laid off from this project. And then another poster still had extremely high hopes here, saying, I believe next year will be focusing on the new map, new enemy types, and new objectives. And again, this user believed that the roadmap was just simply showing off the recurring stuff only. And then we've got a poster who comes in and says, with a rational approach, it says yearly roadmap though, with someone replying saying it does, but the way most people are misreading it is that they are thinking this is year 2 roadmap. It's just that image. And so they think that there isn't going to be any new Crisis events or even new content in year 2, like the leaker said. It only refers to the return of Crisis events in year 2. Therefore, the image is not the roadmap, but instead part of it. Even though it literally says roadmap on the picture, we've got people believing that this is just a partial thing or it's not the real thing. It's kind of crazy how far they fell for these leaks. Then we got a really sad exchange at the bottom here with a guy saying multiple posts are pointing to game is done for. And then we have replies saying it's pretty clear you haven't been paying attention this last week then. Talking about, of course, the entirely fake leaks. And another poster saying it is not. People are just panicking for no reason. So even though they had the official stuff right there in front of them saying roadmap and all that, there was a lot of people that were just completely pulled in by the leaks. And it makes me regret not making a video back then just saying this is all fake. You shouldn't believe it. And I should have done that. I just hoped the official roadmap was going to sort things out. I assumed it was, but people just really fell for it. And I want to point out at this point that this isn't the community here being dumb or something like that. I see this with Siege all the time. There is constantly people who will tell me about a leak that I'm pretty sure isn't happening, but they'll tell me that, oh, it was actually official, even though it was a completely fake leak. And they'll get completely tangled up in what is real and what is not real when it comes to leaks. And unfortunately, this is what happened here. People just got bought right into it. And they really believed, and this is the thing, this fan base for this game was passionate. They really wanted new content. They were loving it. Like I say, I was playing it every week. It was, to me, my favorite cooperative game. And I've played a lot of what I think is the best cooperative game right now, which is Deep Rock Galactic. And that game is amazing, it has great content, and is a lot of fun. But it's got a few faults that I think Extraction actually beats it on. And in general, if I had to pick one or the other, I would have picked Extraction. Of course, now with the content being dropped, I would go to Deep Rock all the time. But I think it showed that this game was fun to play and it had a passionate fan base. I think if it had got year 2 content, because this is the thing, when Siege launched, it did not do well for a couple of years. And I think Extraction here could have done good too. But also, Ubisoft did mess up Extraction right from the start. They probably just should not have called it a Tom Clancy game. Like if I was making a zombie cooperative game for Ubisoft, I would have just said, let's make it a new IP. We can totally bring over the gun mechanics from Siege. We could even bring over the characters if we want and have it as an official spin-off of Outbreak. But we don't have to call it Tom Clancy. We don't have to call it Rainbow Six. And we can just use the great gun mechanics and the great characters from that game and then build on it from there. I've also seen lots of people say that Extraction should have been a mode within Rainbow Six Siege, and I just point out that in the last 3 months of Rainbow Six Siege, the servers have been down at least once a day, sometimes at the peak, down 3 times a day. And you're telling me that Extraction, a game I never had a single bug with or server issue with, should have been a mode within Siege with its absolute list of issues that would have absolutely ruined the co-op experience that Extraction brought me. And like I say, I never had a single bug in Extraction. It was beautiful to jump in and play, and it was just perfect for my kind of chill gaming when I was away from cooperative multiplayer. Now, I'm hoping to return with another video about Rainbow Six Extraction, talking about the prestige system and the prestige cosmetics, because I want to see something like that in Rainbow Six Siege. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk about that, because that was just an amazing addition to Extraction that I hope we end up somehow getting in Siege.